This is actress and musician Jessica Pimentel, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers, like our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Jessica Pimentel
of Alekhine's Gun,
an actress from Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, what a phenomenal interview.
Yeah.
We would like to thank Michael Alago for helping us set this one up.
Yes, definitely. She's currently living in Sweden.
Yes, she is, and she's back in New York City for the time being.
Yeah, she had just gotten back, I think, a couple of days right before the interview, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. So, hey, what a phenomenal interview. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night. Jessica, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Jessica, it's going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good.
All right, hey, we're
Good.
excited to have you. So, before we get into all the Q&A and everything tonight, so I got to tell you this story real quick. So, back in January, I'm sitting on the phone. I'm talking to Michael Alago. He's been on the podcast a couple times, and he was kind of brainstorming with me. He's like, oh, man, he's like, you guys need to get more females on your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes,
I try.
You try.
Yeah, and he's like, what do you mean you try? I was like, he said, it doesn't look like you try. And I said, believe it. So,
I love that guy.
he goes, why don't you ask Jessica Pimentel? I'm like, you think she'll come on the podcast? He's like, oh, yeah, just hit her up. So that's why when you got that random message from me, like I wasn't stalking you or anything. It was by referral from Michael Alago.
I understand. See, because I had put, like, at the beginning of the year, I kind of put all these interviews and podcasts and everything on hold because I felt like it was getting, like, oversaturated and doing too many interviews and, like, talk about yourself too much. You just sound like you're on repeat broken record. But when Michael Alago asks a favor, you do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
When you get a message from Michael Alago,
I got a message from him one time, and it said, Eric, how come you haven't invited me on your podcast yet? I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
I'm feeling pretty.
That's that attitude, that Brooklyn attitude. You can't mess with us.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as we're fighting through COVID-19, and it seems like we just can't get rid of it because the restrictions here in Illinois are coming back again. How have you kept yourself busy?
I mean, I literally left. My partner is Swedish, so we split our time between New York and Sweden. We've been going back and forth for the last 6 years. And at that point, he was over there and I was over here last March. We were just together here. Then he had to go do some stuff in the studio, and I was going to go join him in a few weeks. And this is like March. He had left like the leap day, the 29th or the 28th of February, and then leap day, and then the announcements start, coming out about all this. And I remember, booked a flight to go in mid-March or something like that, or the end of March. Mm-hmm. And then we get the announcement on the TV from Trump that the borders were being closed for EU residents to come in. Gotcha. So once I heard that, I went into panic mode. He went into panic mode. I'm like, okay, I gotta move this trip up to Friday. And then I booked a plane for Friday. And then that got canceled. Then we heard the EU borders were closing, but it could be as soon as tomorrow. So we booked something for like tomorrow. And so now this is like St. Patrick's Day, or the day before St. Patrick's Day, when they had the no more than 10 people in a room rule in New York established. And there were 10 of us like freaking out, trying to book plane tickets and trying to get out into the world. We didn't know what was going on. Wow. And so as I'm packing the following day on St. Patrick's Day, my flight is being canceled.
Oh, no.
So he's over there in Sweden, like trying to book for me. I'm trying to book for me. Nothing's going through. Things are getting canceled left and right. As we book one, they'll call back. So I was supposed to leave my house like 11 was going to be my flight. The next flight was at 8, and it was like 7. So there was no way I was going to make it to Newark, but somehow I did make it to Newark.
Wow.
And because we were booking so fast, the name on my ticket was wrong. It was under my company name. So I had to wait on another line, when I finally got to Newark. And everyone there was, going nuts at the airport because all the flights were just disappearing or late, or the connections weren't being made. I made it to my flight by the luck of the grace of the wonderful people at Delta who got me there. They were amazing. They held the gate open, drove me in a golf cart to the gate. They were awesome.
Oh, so cool.
And right when I landed, I had a layover in London, and it said all borders are closed in London. Oh. So I thought, once I get to Sweden, they're just going to turn me around. But luckily, Sweden decided to stay open one more day, and I landed at 7, and the borders closed at midnight. Oh, and I've been in Sweden ever since then till Sunday, which was August 1st, was my first day back.
It's amazing to me. Okay, so you have a perfectly good excuse for living in Sweden, but coordinating this podcast with different artists, I spoke to Eric Bazillion of the Hooters, Ryan Roxy of the Alice Cooper Band. Yeah.
Yes.
They all live in Sweden, so what's the big draw for U.S. artists to go over to Sweden to live? What's the deal?
It's a wonderful quality of life. It's not too big of a culture shock, in the sense that most Swedes speak fairly to perfect English, better than like some Brooklyn bums I know. They've been watching American TV. They study it in school, so almost everyone speaks great English. Before this, the money exchange rate was really great. Now it's a little bit more in their favor. But I mean, the price of apartments and homes and things like that is like reasonable. You can do it. It's not uncommon to be 30 and buy your first home, and then also have a summer home, and maybe even have an apartment, in the city. Yeah. So it's just like it's more inviting. Also, artists who are professional artists are encouraged by the government to produce their art, and they're given stipends and win awards from the government for their work. Healthcare, universal healthcare. Once you're a resident or a citizen, you're covered. You don't have to worry about, like I did. I broke my hand last summer. I didn't have to worry about the surgery or the casts or the visit or the rehab after, which for many Americans is just a huge, overwhelmingly scary thing if you get sick or hurt. You know, the amount of bills, or so you don't go to the doctor because you're not feeling well because you can't afford it, and then a little thing ends up being a big thing.
Exactly.
Where you find that that's not really the case in Sweden. And it's really lovely, you know, the temperature's pretty moderate, you know, depending on where you are. If you're in Stockholm, summer's not very hot, winter's not very cold. All day, daylight in the summer, pure blackness in the winter.
Well, it also seems
that's why Sweden has the most metal bands per capita of any country. You know?
Yes, that's where I was going to go with it. I was just going to say that, it seems like they have embraced the rock and roll and the
because when it's winter, it is winter. It is time to make black magic noise.
All right. Well, this isn't really a question, but I wanted to kind of bring it back to COVID-19. So, you were talking about your dilemma trying to get to Sweden from New York. I was stuck down in Cancun when the whole pandemic broke out. I was at a resort.
Could be worse.
It could be. But, the crazy thing about it was, here we are, we're partying every day on the beach. We're doing our thing. And all of a sudden, every day, I'm starting to notice less and less people at my resort, and nobody's coming in. So finally,
nobody's coming in.
Yeah, nobody's coming into the resort. Everybody's leaving.
They're leaving, but there's no new people coming in.
Exactly. So
no fresh meat.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it is. I finally just I turned on my smartphone and looked on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing my friends saying, "Hey, there's no toilet paper back in where we live."
You're like, what?
I'm like, what's going on, right? So I finally, make a long story short here, our last day we're waiting for our shuttle. And I'm standing out looking at this panoramic view of the resort that looks down at the beach and all the pools and everything. And I turned around. My wife was sitting on the couch waiting. I turned around and looked at her. I said, "There's nobody here." I said, "I don't know where we're coming home from."
That's scary.
That is scary. And so the thing was, we get to the Cancun airport, and there's this mad rush of people just trying to get out of there, going, "What is going on?" I'm still kind of in the dark about everything. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we get on the plane. Our plane leaves an hour early. Where does a plane ever leave an hour early? I've never had that ever happen.
I've never heard that in my whole life.
No,
that's impossible. You can't do that.
They did it, and so if
they were like, "Bye."
Exactly. So we land in Rockford, Illinois. And we're Illinoisans here, and we go through customs and immigration. They don't even check our passports or anything. They just tell us go.
They're just get out of here.
They
Bye.
did. And so that was the story. That's my story. That's how we were we had limited time to get back home because they were shutting everything down. And I never had to show my passport or anything through customs and immigration when I got into the Rockford airport. True story.
Wow.
Yeah. So go figure.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Enough about me. More about you here. So.
No, that's a great story. No, that's cool. Oh yeah, and then to end my little packing in a rush in 30 minutes, I thought it's gonna be a 2-week thing. So I packed the most ridiculous garb. I packed a book I was reading. So a toaster, some coffee, the most things that I like, my brick of Bustelo coffee. I put that in there because they don't have that in Sweden, and a board game, and none of the things that I really, really use on the daily thing. Thinking that this couple weeks I was planning on going there anyway, and a year and a half later.
So you're starting music. You started out a classical violinist. Can you talk a little about why heavy metal, why rock and roll? What happened?
Why heavy metal and rock and roll? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, I did start out as a classical musician, but music was always big part of my life. I always listened to the radio, top 40, whatever was on the rock station. 102.7 was one, and 104.3 and K-Rock and all those rocks, Q-Rock, K-Rock, Z-Rock, all that stuff, and whatever was popular. And I think the first real, I heard, I Love Rock and Roll, Joan Jett. Yeah. I saw that video. I thought that was the coolest broad ever on earth. I want her job. She's got it down. So that rock, mentality. I always had that kind of rock rebel spirit, a little goth stuff. I like Depeche Mode so much and The Cure and all that. But I think the real click was when I first heard King Diamond when I was about 12 or 13 years old in junior high. Yeah. And I had never heard anything like that. Because it was kind of a mix between what I loved about classical music, what I loved about the goth music, because it was so dark, you know, and mysterious. But then, you know, Andy LaRocque's guitar solos were insane. I never heard anything like that. And then Mickey D, that's the first time I ever heard somebody drum like that I actually paid attention to drums, that it wasn't just keeping the beat, it was doing something by itself. And nobody sings like King, you know, that was insane. And then the story of it, the fact that it was a story well thought out, and it went somewhere as you listen to the album, it was just really, it was magic. And from that point on, I started, you know, digging into more stuff. And I think the Black Album came out. That was like my introduction to Metallica, was the Black Album. And that's like, is that an anniversary soon?
Yeah, 91, right?
Yeah.
91.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
and that was, you know, there was no metal rock album that sounded like that. They changed the sound of how albums were made. It was so expensive sounding, you know, it was so different, and it was such a huge hit and all that. So I worked my way backwards in that through the Metallica catalog, and I felt when I listened to Metallica and King Diamond, and I think those were the first two, you know, metal bands that I got into. It was just an energy that I felt, because I was right at that rebellious, you know, your body's starting to change and everything's life and death, and you're slamming doors, you know, like that age, like that 12, 13, like, oh, Mom, I hate you, slam the door, like, you're not happy with anything, and you feel all this angst, and I don't know. It was just the right time for me to hear that music that was so rebellious and so powerful and strong and different than these just regular pop music. And not that there's anything wrong with pop and love songs and all that stuff. It's all great. But this was something else that not everyone was listening to. So it felt special and it felt cool. And then you start, you know, asking your friends and trading tapes, trading albums, you know, band shirts, all that stuff, the whole culture. And then finally starting to go to shows, and you find this whole community of weirdos like you. And you're like, you know, like every you know, school had just like that one weirdo kid, or the metalhead kid, or the, you know. So then you start finding each other, you know, and then it's like, oh, okay, it's okay that I'm a little depressed, it's okay that I'm a little angry, it's okay I don't want to dress like Britney Spears, it's all right, you know. I don't feel like it, you know. And so it was just not just rebelliousness, but individuality. People that were attracted to that music weren't really like everyone else. Whereas you had so many cookie cutter friends that, you know, followed the latest fashion trends and whatever was popular, the first thing they would grab, you know, whatever was on the mannequin, that's what we were supposed to wear.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was more attracted to that kind of misfit, outcast kind of group. Not that I felt that I was treated badly or cast out, but just like that normal A to B life didn't really appeal to me. I thought there was just more out there for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, very cool.
Being the lead singer of Alekhine's Gun has to be a challenge on your vocal cords.
Yeah.
What was it about the guttural style of metal that brought you in?
Yeah.
Just a lot of bad breakups.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta yell at a motherfucker. No, I don't know what it was, because I had played and sung in hardcore bands for so long, and I had been listening to metal, you know, this death metal and that heavy stuff, and I just always loved it, and I just wanted to give it a try, and I just, you know, just kept pushing myself to try it. I think once you find your voice, don't try to have someone else's voice. It's impossible. You have to find your voice that fits your body, your style, whatever. And once you find it, it won't be a problem on your vocal cords. You'll develop the technique that works for you. You won't lose your voice. You won't poop your pants. I don't know. Everybody's got their own instrument, and you just try different things and keep trying. Try to emulate people, but also know what works for this person may not work for you. But I just love that kind of ambiguous tone for me. Is it male, female? Not really sure. Yeah. I like that some people can't understand it. They don't speak fluent death metal or black metal. I like that. Sometimes that's good. You can get away with little secret messages in there to people. Like, I always hated you. No.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that because a few years ago we had Derek Green of Sepultura on, and he was explaining to us about he when he sings it sounds like thunder. That's how I can really think. But he really watches his diet and he does vocal exercises and what have you. Do you have a regimen that you do to keep your voice in check?
Absolutely. If I were to have to do a show tomorrow, it would not happen. I would die halfway through. Like it's been a year of just like working from home, sitting on the couch, sitting at the computer, working at the computer, working on the couch, sleeping on the couch, eating pizza. I don't know. It's been a year. Like getting up a flight of stairs is rough right now. I'm not gonna lie. But when I am in shape, of course, being in shape is part of it. It's a very strenuous thing to do when you're fronting, or even if you're just in the studio recording. It's strenuous on your body. If we're rehearsing, I like to rehearse like with ankle weights and stuff. Make sure you have a lot of core strength to be able to support the breath so that you can take those long, deep breaths and long growls and you're not gasping for air during the show. I do also warm up a regular singer's warm up as if I were going to be singing on a Broadway show or an opera or something like that with my regular singing voice, and then drop down into the scream. But the higher you go up, the lower you can go down. So little by little, you just kind of stretch like you would stretch before doing exercises. You stretch your vocal cords.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, you're also a multi-instrumentalist, guitar, electric bass, percussion. I think you also play guitar a little bit with Alekhine's Gun.
Yeah.
Is there future plans to do more instruments with them?
Do more instruments on that? I have no idea. Sometimes when it first started off, we were 3 of us, and then it became 2 of us. And then it was 4 of us. And then there was a time when Jeff and I were doing the majority of the writing. And so I felt very comfortable with the guitar. Initially, I was going to play bass, but I couldn't do bass and sing because I'd get too hype and like kick the mic stand. I get too excited. So I had to pick one or the other. And the singing was definitely, was the point of me coming in the band in the first place. But I really enjoyed the writing process, especially with my brother, so that's super fun. And sometimes, in practice, I'll bring the guitar. I mean, it's been a very long time because now we have Leo. It's great. You don't really need another one. But there would be times where there'd be 3 guitars. Like, we're like, let's Iron Maiden this, rehearsal. Yeah. And there'd have to be a point where like somebody would be like, Jess, are you ever planning on singing again? It's like, damn, this is so fun. Yeah, you're right. I'll sing now. I guess I'll put the guitar away. Because I enjoy playing as much as I enjoy singing for totally different reasons.
Oh, so cool. Yeah. You've also served as backing vocals for Brujeria. Is it something that's kind of hit and miss for you, or is that a kind of a consistent thing that you're doing for the band?
Brujeria, it's Brujeria.
I can't pronounce it right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Brujeria or Brujeria, as many of our gringo friends.
Yeah, I tried.
We knew better than that one.
Brujeria. Yeah. Well, the thing with Brujeria is you never know who you're going to get when you see them. There are multiple members of Brujeria, and it's kind of like where depending on the country, depending on who's busy, who's not touring, who's working, who's not working, who's got a green card, who doesn't, who's not in jail, who is. All these factors come into play when deciding who the lineup is. That's why we all have names and masks and whatnot, because there's no there's a core group, but sometimes one of the core groups is busy, so they get someone else, and that person comes. I mean, there's no except for Juan Brujo, everyone else could be. You have no idea who's going to be. So you have no idea who's going to be. Sometimes I show up, I'm like, which one are you? Who are you? I'm never sure who it's going to be. Sometimes there are shows that have the bruja and there are shows that don't, depending on circumstances. So to get a bruja show is very rare and fun. It always has been. So that's an honor for me. It's like a full circle moment for me because I remember the first time I heard Brujeria, and it was like a tape of a tape. So it was like really bad quality, and it was like all these songs about killing people, and I was like, oh man, it was so crazy heavy and scary, and now full circle moment. Now you're like singing in this band, and I don't know, it's just mind blowing sometimes how the world works.
Yeah,
it is. Well, kind of changing gears on you here. So, you talked about, with the King Diamond, you talked about listening to the Black Album the first time. When I was a kid, I used to have this neighborhood record store that I used to ride my bicycle up to. Mm-hmm. And as I got older, I got a driver's license. You drive up there. And I think it was like 1989. I walk into the record store. And the guy that was behind the counter had just got a promo copy of Bad Brains, the Quickness album.
Woohoo!
And I walked into that store because that was the first time I had heard Bad Brains. It was on the Quickness album. I felt like I was a little late, a little bit, It's 89. But anyway, I walk in and I he's Soulcraft was obviously the first song that's on that.
Soulcraft, yeah. And wow, what a banger!
Oh, yeah. It's a banger. Anyway, and from then on, I remember. I also, it was 89, listening to Best Wishes from the Cro-Mags, and also in Staring into the Sun by Uniform Choice. Those three albums really changed me in 89. I was a 17-year-old kid, and those albums were just... But as you can go back looking at your youth, is there one album that really changed your thought process on music?
Damn it. I mean, I would say that maybe King Diamond Conspiracy, because that's the one that opened me up to this whole kind of world of music, different than what was just on the radio. Mm. But there's so many albums that were so important to me, like, that and Nevermind and Minor Threat, best hits and Rock for Light and 16 Horsepower, Sackcloth and Ashes. That's the first one. That's kind of like country, gothy, Americana, I don't know. You check it out. I can't really describe what it is. How
about cowpunk? Does that work for you?
Cowpunk? Not really, because he's so serious, God cowpunk.
Yeah,
like for Jesus. God cowpunk for Jesus. Something like that. I would never say that I could pick one album, because you go through phases, it's like...
You do.
You go through phases, not saying that I don't like this or that anymore, but you'll have an album. I used to love to spin albums just like forever. When I get a new album, I would just play it all day, all night, over and over. Yeah. I used to do that a lot with Bad Religion and Depeche Mode and what else? I mean, any hardcore Crumbsuckers and Cro-Mags, Misfits, and I really listen to a lot of music all the time. Awesome. A lot of music all the time.
I was noticing Alkene's Gun had a couple of like 4 singles that came out in 2020. But can you talk a little bit about the release of those singles? Is there plans for a full length?
That's a great question. I mean, these were songs that we had kicking around, and once I left the country, so we weren't really going to be jamming much on new stuff, because I think jamming is kind of like you got to be in the room thing. Mm-hmm. You got to vibe together. Mm-hmm. That's how I like it. Although I know many people who have written songs over Zoom this last year, or let me write my part, you write your part, or and send it that way. And that's been done. We did that with some other stuff for other bands this last year too. Everybody's kind of really focused on their families this year, so so we had those songs just sitting there, and we're like, let's just release them. I mean, they're done, so might as well just release them and see if we want to continue with this album or just make another. We like EPs, if you haven't noticed. We like to do EPs, short and sweet, and get it out there, and maybe next year we'll put out some more. I have no idea where everyone's head is at, because we really haven't been in the same room since... I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, as you say that, this is a conversation that we have with artists constantly, the LP versus the EP versus the one-off, single. And I love EPs, but it feels like it just takes away from the deep cut. It's 5 strong songs, and there's no deep cuts on an EP.
And you're like, bye. That's
exactly.
It's like you walk into a room, you smack them, and you leave, and you close the door.
And
I'm out.
And it's not like I mean the EPs there's some EPs that I absolutely love, but as far as albums not doing what they're supposed to be doing anymore as far as a sales tangible thing. That being said, where is your head at when it comes to creating music? Are you still a favor of the LP, or is the one-off single or the EP the way of the future for you and the rest of the band?
That's a great question, because it all depends on I would rather have 5 awesome songs than an album where I hate like 50% of it that, just like filler. Because I know I took a nice break from metal for this whole year. I decided I wasn't going to listen to any metal, except I listened to one album, and I'm not going to say what album it was. But I literally listened to 10 to 15 seconds of every song before I was like, nope. Then I go to the next song, nope. Then I go to the next song, nope. Then I found one, ooh, that's interesting. Made it to about 45 seconds. Nope. Then there was one song I really liked. And then like 3 more I couldn't stand. And I was like, that was a whole waste of, 15 minutes of my life. You should have just put the one single. I listened to it. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. But, it's like a disappointment sometimes. So I'd rather get one awesome single than one awesome single on a whole crappy album. Like, just don't do it. I think a lot of people are just putting stuff out to stay relevant and be out there. And make money, because people weren't touring, they weren't making money. Sure. A lot of people did a lot of just like try to be creative as possible in this, given the situation, and applaud them for it. And there was hundreds of covers and hundreds of cover all-star bands, and some were great and some were not. And that's it. So I feel like we have to do whatever feels right, whether it's just one song that comes out every month or year or whatever, or one whole album that may not come out for 10 years from now. I don't know. We just there's no set rules or game plan as far as releasing more music, and all of us have all other projects too that we work on. So everybody's working on what feels right now.
Oh, very good. Well, it wouldn't behoove us to discuss your life and acting. Can you kind of talk more about coexisting as a musician and an actress at the same time? How does it work for you? How do you balance it out?
Yeah.
I've pretty much been doing that my whole life, or at least since I was a teenager. When I went to performing arts high school, and I started off as a music major, but I started having problems with my hands, so it was hard for me to play violin. And they gave me the option that if I wanted to stay, I had to audition for a different program in the high school. And there were dance, vocal, art, and drama. And drama was on the same floor. I wouldn't have to move my locker. It wasn't that light of a decision. I really enjoyed acting. I had done it before. I was in, school plays. I loved Shakespeare already. I did, church plays, all that stuff. So I thought, drama would be a good fit. It would let me express myself in a new way, and I could still take music classes and still take, violin once a week instead of playing every day. And I auditioned and I got in. So I've been doing both things for most of my life, So it never was a conflict for me.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch base on 2008. You had part in the film Pride and Glory featuring Edward Norton, Colin Farrell, and John Voight. Can you talk a little bit more about this opportunity? How did it kind of come your way?
I had been already a professional actress for several years at that point. That was 2008 it came out?
Yeah,
Damn.
2008.
Actually, I believe that we shot it in 2006, though.
Oh, okay.
And it took 2 years to come out. But I had already been a professional actress for several years now at that point. And like all things, you audition, and you have this pool of casting directors that cast different movies and films, and they get to know you, and they get to know your work, they get to know your style. And I auditioned for the film, and I got it, and it was I believe some of that scene was cut. It's only one scene, but it's probably one of the heaviest scenes in the film, and they had to cut a lot of it because it got really, really violent. So I know there's like a director's cut out there where that scene is full, but I don't think I'd want to see it. It's really, really nasty, but yeah, I auditioned, and that's kind of how you do it. It's like trial and error. It's like just going for it and see if they pick you, kind of thing. Constant competition. Yeah. So eventually the project and the people will match.
Sure.
And that's how you work. But you get parts by auditioning and auditioning and auditioning and auditioning and auditioning. So they get to know you.
I didn't know if it was one of those kind of things where it was like, hey, you'd be great for this part. And
I wish life was like that. Although I have done smaller films where people would ask specifically for me without an audition because they wanted me, my style, my look, whatever they needed, whatever they felt that that would benefit their character by casting me. So that does happen, either in smaller projects or when you're a bigger star. Yeah, of course. And as your network grows, as your circle grows, as people get to know your work more, of course, the opportunities.
Oh, very cool.
Get there. Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is ask you another Orange is the New Black question, but I guess it would be,
of course.
It would be
That's
who
a
of
huge
us.
Part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. You probably answered every question known to man.
Maybe you can try. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm yelling. Am I yelling at you guys?
No,
not at all.
No, it sounds good.
Oh, because I have headphones in, and I took one out, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm screaming in my house.
Not at all. No, not at all. With that, with Orange is the New Black, being black. That subject matter goes, it being such a big smash hit on Netflix.
Yeah.
Did you ever foresee it, climbing to the fame that it did so quickly?
Absolutely not. It was a panic attack moment, actually. I remember going in for it, and at that point, it was known as the computer show because Netflix at that time only had one other show. And that was House of Cards. They didn't have their own original programming yet. They had a guy that would come to your house with some DVDs and throw them under the door. And then he'd be like, I'll be back Tuesday. And he'd give you a dirty look. And that's what Netflix was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they had just started their streaming platform around, I don't know if they had just started it, but the streaming platform was getting popular now. So they weren't really doing the DVD things, but I think they still do, which is amazing. So we didn't know the state, we didn't know the network, anything about it. We knew only thing I knew was the casting agent, because I had been in her office several times auditioning for things. And so she knew who to pick, she kind of knew which actors kind of fit that vibe of what they were trying to do. And I knew Genji from Weeds, but other than that, I just knew prison show on the computer. I was like, it's not even on TV.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even like, we're really like sinking low now. I think I'm about to quit acting, and I really was at a point where I was going to quit. And because I had been in for several auditions at that point for that same computer show. The computer show. I still call it the computer show. I had been in for several roles, like four different characters I went in for. And they were just not picking me. And I'm like, why do you keep calling me and they're not picking me? This is really just hurting my feelings now. And I also had like a big heartbreak because a few weeks before that, I had gotten to kind of final rounds on a major TV show, series regulars, all my scenes would be with this big star that I admired so much, this wonderful actress. And they kind of like just changed the character at the last minute. And I was heartbroken. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be getting rejected and having my hopes up and then falling down and breaking, having my heart break over and over again. And then you think, oh, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too light, I'm too dark. You think like everything about you is wrong. So you start doubting yourself. You start doubting your skill. You start doubting everything. And it's a lot of work too. Yeah. I mean, people don't understand how much work you have to do to get the work. You have to do the work before you get the work. So you're putting your time, your energy into this audition to make sure you could be the best that you could possibly do it. So you can give them the best product and give them what they want, hopefully what they want, or give the best of yourself at least. And that means, maybe not seeing friends tonight, maybe not going out, so late. Maybe getting up a little extra early, memorizing lines, reading a whole script the day before that's like 100 pages long.
Wow.
And working on your character, trying to memorize those 4 pages so that you're not looking at the paper the whole time, and rehearsing over and over so it feels natural. And that's what the work you do before you even have the part. You're doing work as if it were your job already. Yeah. At that point, that is your job. That's your one and only job, is to do this right. So it's not just like you go in, you say, hi, my name is Jess, and you twirl around 3 times and you leave. You actually were up all night you got nervous and you got to get ready. You got to look good. You got to fight Manhattan traffic. That you walk in a room, everybody looks like you. You're like, oh God, and then you're competing against your friends for the same parts, which is also strange,
For sure.
I mean, we're at a point where we're happy for each other. As long as one of us is working, somebody will eat. So we take care of each other, so which is great.
Well,
which I think that, yes, and it's more camaraderie. But when you're starting out, it's not like that so much in the beginning. So, I mean, after the show, it called me several times and rejected me several times. Like, why I want to do this again. And I was going to call my agent. I was calling my manager. Actually, it was like the end of September. Called my manager to tell her that I didn't want, at least for the rest of the year, I needed a break, a mental health break. No more auditions till January. No more auditions. Because in January, back then, was something called pilot season, and it's the craziest time of the year for actors, where all the new TV shows are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're auditioning 10, 15 things in a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, before that happens, I need a break to think if I really want to do this. I'd just gotten a letter from Microsoft. They told me it was never too late to become a Microsoft technician. All I had to do was just take the test. I was like, wow, a steady paycheck and health insurance. Yeah. That sounds good. Mm-hmm. That sounds good. I was ready to quit.
Well, we're glad you did.
And when I called her, she said, it's funny because I was just about to call you because remember Jen from that computer show? She wants to see you tomorrow if you can. I know you don't feel like it, but just do it for her. She really loves you, and just do this last one, and that'll be the last one because she really wants to see you for this. And I was like, fine, just because it's for Jen, I'll go because she's really cool, right? I'm like, what is it? They're like, okay, well, she's in jail. I'm like, duh, obviously, because that's all I get. What's the next thing? She's pregnant. I'm like, of course. What else? Is her boyfriend a drug dealer? She's like, we don't know that yet. And her name's Maria. And I was like, oh, great. Give me all the stereotypes, all the things I want to get away from. Just give it all to me for my last audition so I could go out in a bang. Let's do it. And I had a special, she said, come in at 12:30. I was like, can we make it 12 o'clock? Because Sephora is giving me a birthday makeover, and it's my last day to do it, and I have to do it. I have to do it by 12:30, so let's do it at 12 o'clock. So that was more important to me, my Sephora birthday makeover, than going on this audition. So obviously, Jen gets stuck in traffic because she's coming in from New Jersey. She gets stuck she's late for our 12 o'clock. And that moment, Maria was born. All that attitude was all the frustration, all the I don't care about this, all the, all that attitude, that sass was just Jessica just being mad that day. And she said something like, you were awesome as always. And I almost said, but you never pick me. And I'm glad I didn't say that. Yeah. I just said thank you. And I was like, I feel free. Let me go to Sephora and get my makeover. And guess what? The next day I got a phone call, and I was working at the end of the week.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So I have one last question for you, then we'll leave you alone.
Okay.
Your journey in Tibetan Buddhism. It's been a big part of your life.
That's a long one.
Can you kind of chop it down for us a little bit and tell us a little bit about your journey into Tibetan Buddhism?
Sure. Hold on one second. Let me get some water. But I never even answered the question, did we think it was going to be as big of a hit? Actually, we had no idea that it was going to be a hit. So we shot the thing. We kind of saw a couple famous people in it. Yeah. We felt that we were doing something great, but we had no idea what we were all doing, because also we didn't all know the entire script of every episode. Some of us only got our scenes, and also it's all different when you put it together and edit it and all that. So I remember it came out, and at like midnight we were at work or something, or we were sleeping on and the next day we had to go shoot. And by the time we woke up, it was the #1 show in the world. And so everybody's, waking up, good morning, get your emails. Oh, here's a little press for you. And you're like, #1 show in the world? In the entire world? Like overnight from when we slept? So we're at work and people are texting us about the show. Like everyone binged the whole thing that day while we're shooting season 2 people were watching season 1 when everyone's getting emails and texts and the phone was blowing up. We're like, overwhelming. It was like almost panic attack, because then our pictures were everywhere, and like everything, every time you opened the phone, your face was there, and like, you're like, not expecting this kind of reaction at all. You thought, we made a cute little show and it was going to be good, and, our moms will be happy, and that's that. But it turned into quite a beast.
Yeah.
Entertainment history.
Yeah.
It really did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's discuss your journey into Tibetan Buddhism. You don't have to give the full story. You can just kind of break it down a little bit.
Sure. I mean, first introduction to Buddhism in general was in high school. We had to read this book called Siddhartha, which is by Hermann Hesse, and it's like a story of a man kind of finding his own way, his own spiritual life in India around the same time as the Buddha. And their paths kind of cross every once in a while. Anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting, but at that point, I was studying the Tao Te Ching, which I thought was really great. Taoism, it was really logical, simple, peaceful, it made sense to me. So we had to read this book and write an essay about it, or take a test. I forgot if it was a test or essay, but I compared the entire book to the Tao Te Ching. And my teacher, Mr. Morgenstern, said, I think Buddhism might really be your thing. You should check it out. And I was like, I'm a Taoist. You don't tell me what to do. I know everything. I'm 15, 16, whatever. When you're a kid, snotty-nosed kid, you know everything. But so my mom had a book, which I'm holding in my hand right now, called Religions of the World, for her college class when she was in school. Mm-hmm. So I have this book called Religions of the World, and it's literally that. So Religions of the World, 3rd edition. And it goes through, the Native American religion, which is part of my culture. So I grew up with some of that stuff, powwows, and also culturally speaking languages and things that we say day to day that are native words, so on and so forth. So, that's one. Then Judaism, I knew a little bit about that. And Christianity, I grew up in that. And then there was, what other stuff? Then there was the Krishna stuff, which was very big in the hardcore scene. So I went a couple times to some Krishna temples. I'm like, this is getting closer, but it's not really hitting me too much. And the Taoism was where I was stuck at. And then chapter 6 was the Buddha. And the first image of the Buddha is this emaciated Buddha. And he's like all skin and bones in meditation. And I thought, whoa, this is not for me. No way. This is actually scary looking, and I don't want any part of it. But I kept reading about it. It started to make sense, and there was one thing called the chain of dependent origination, which explains why suffering exists. Why do people suffer? Yeah. And it was laid out so perfectly in a chain, in a ladder, or a chain, a circle, how suffering exists and how to break the chain of suffering. And I cried. And I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Somebody to just break it down in a simple way I can understand, not rely on some mythical beings, not have to do some rituals. I mean, there's a lot of rituals and gods and all that in Buddhism, but just logical thinking, and there's a lot of logic in this. So then I started looking for a teacher in New York, which back then was very hard. Like, most people didn't have internet in their homes, and you had to go looking. You had to go get a magazine. There was a magazine that had all the temples in New York listed, and you really literally just hit every one. And I did. I went to Chinatown. It didn't work. I went to some hippy-dippy centers. I didn't like that style at all. I went to some, kind of like posh, middle-aged white man Zen places. I was like, I don't like this. This is not for me. You could go to like the Chinese temple, and there you don't understand anybody, and it's all a different kind of cultural thing. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna read these books on my own, and when it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And one day in Central Park, Tricycle Magazine hosted an event called Change Your Mind Day, where they had literally invited all schools of Buddhism, all people from all sects. Allen Ginsberg, the poet, read. It's the first time I heard someone do a Buddhist prayer. And they were Zen, and Thai, Theravadan, Mahayana, and from India, from Sri Lanka, from Canada, from Japan, from U.S., everywhere. And the very last one, I'd sat there all day through everything. The very last one was this Tibetan school, and they had done a traditional debate, as they do in the Saramay Monastery, where they debate a point. And it was all in Tibetan. I don't know what they were saying, but for some reason it resonated with me. And from then on, I started studying in the Tibetan style. And I met my teacher, Ken Rinpoche Losang Tarchen. Mm-hmm. And he's been my guide and my Lama, my guru, my teacher. Even after he passed, he's still teaching me, since 1995, 96.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Fantastic. We kind of ran out of our allotted time.
Whoops.
Oh, no, we're good. But before we let you go for the evening, is there anything that we did not cover tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
No, you did great, I think. It's too bad that we've done this now because they're about to make some announcements for my new show that I'm going to be on, but we haven't started filming yet. We haven't made any announcement yet, so I can't really say anything till that comes out. But we can follow up another time.
Well, and we do this quite often, is that if you enjoyed yourself and you have something to promote, we can always bring you back on to do an intro with us for another artist, and you can take 10 minutes and plug whatever you want to plug on an intro.
Oh, that's great.
And so it whatever works for you, that'd be great. We'd love to have you back on. You're a great storyteller. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, once again, forgive me for stalking you over the wintertime to get you on the podcast.
No, you weren't stalking me at all. This is like normal, and then days don't work out, times don't work out. Oh, something came up. Now we're in the country. And then around January, I was just like, I'm not doing any more of these podcast things. It's like, how many podcasts can I do?
Exactly. We completely understand. We try to be unique enough to where we don't feel like, that we try to make it so you're not answering the same questions over and over again.
Oh, yeah, of course. And also, you don't want to be on 15 at the same time, because then it's like nobody cares. It's better to do one once in a while. You know what I'm saying? People do when they're doing press tours, and then you're like just sick of their voice. Nobody wants that. Well, you got to space it out.
The biggest thing is that we try to be a non-genre based, family-friendly podcast. So we try to get artists from all over the rock and roll spectrum on. So it's been really refreshing to talk to you. So it's just been a pleasure. This is how it's going to work. We're about 3 weeks behind schedule, so this should come out about 3.5 weeks. And when it is, Jeff, the editing wizard here, will get it all cleaned up for us, and I'll send it to you immediately. And please,
awesome.
Please share it on your socials wherever you can. You were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. You're great.
This has been a lot of fun.
It's very easy when people have good questions. So.
Hey, well, thank you. Yeah. Hey, I'll be back in touch with you in about 3 weeks with your edited episode, okay?
Wonderful. You have a great night, okay, guys?
Take care of yourself.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out.